Exclusive contract from Feilu Novel Network Novel. Shelter game. I can synthesize infinitely synthesize the shelter core and deep sea monster skeleton to obtain a mobile version of the biological reproduction shelter. Combine the goddess statue and divine goddess to obtain an obedient goddess Maid. Synthesize spear and dark blood to obtain the divine weapon killer spear. Darkness descended upon earth, bringing evil gods and countless terrifying monsters, as well as various terrifying natural disasters. Extreme cold. Great drought. Insect infestation. A shelter game that brings vitality to humanity. Players can obtain an unlimited upgrade shelter and various magical opportunities in the game. Awakening the talent of infinite synthesis at the beginning of the night, embark on a path of infinite synthesis. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Rebirth, Shelter Game. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This translator is experiencing an error, please try another translator. Kill the Corruptor and synthesize again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Corruptor is a low-level monster in the darkness, formed by the power of evil gods contaminating humanoid creatures. Its body is covered in flesh and blood, resembling a zombie, but it sprays corrosive acid. The most common thing in the previous life was this monster, so I am very familiar with this sound. Bai immediately became alert because there was thick fog everywhere and visibility was low, so he could only control the character to move forward carefully. The next moment, a ferocious Corruptor figure appeared, spraying a green liquid directly at the character of White Knight. Bai was already prepared and immediately manipulated the villain to avoid it. Without hesitation, he swung his iron rod and struck it over. With a loud bang, the Corruptor's head was blasted by a stick. You killed the Corruptor, do you want to collect it? Collecting is an ability of players in the game to collect and obtain materials from any killed monster corpse. Bai immediately chooses yes. Successfully collected, you have obtained corroded bones X1 and corroded venom X1. Sure enough, there's nothing good about the Corruptor. Bai pouted and felt a bit disgusted with this thing. Because it's useless. Wait, it seems I can use it to synthesize. Bai suddenly thought of his talent and his eyes lit up. These materials are of no use to others and may not necessarily benefit oneself. After all, his talent can be used to synthesize anything, but it's not many times. Today, there are only 2 synthesizes left, which makes him hesitant. But soon Bai made up his mind. Improving one's strength in the early stages is the most important thing. With strength, one can better explore the game world and obtain resources. Open the backpack. The newly collected items have been automatically placed inside. Corroded bones, explanation. Originating from the bones in the body of the Corruptor, it contains a hint of corrosiveness. Corrosive venom. Explanation. Originating from the venom inside the corrosive body, it has strong corrosiveness and may be used to make poison. Bai looked at the introduction and felt his chin as he pondered. He has a strong talent. But there are 2 flaws. One is that there are only 3 opportunities per day. Secondly, only 2 items can be synthesized at a time. He cannot use all the remaining 2 synthesis opportunities on this, so he can only make a choice. After much contemplation, Bai made a choice. Ironwood stick, plus, corrosion venom. Click to synthesize. Prompt immediately appears. Successfully synthesized, you have obtained item. Poisonous wood stick. A highly poisonous wooden stick, description. A wooden stick containing highly corrosive toxins, made of hard material, has a chance to corrode the enemy's body when striking. Pretty Bai raised the corner of his mouth and immediately showed a happy smile. In this way, the combat power greatly increased. Bai controlled the little man to continue moving forward, while collecting some wood and stones on the ground. Shelters can be upgraded infinitely, but upgrading requires materials. The more precious the materials, the better, because the evolution of shelters does not follow a fixed path. Instead, using the same materials to evolve can obtain the same characteristics. Of course, that's in the later stage. In the early stage, only iron, wood, and stone are needed. In no time, Baiye's backpack contained about 200 pieces of wood and stones. At this point, a corrosionist entered the screen range. Baiye remained extremely calm, controlling the villain to first avoid the corrosive venom, then quickly approached and swung the highly poisonous wooden stick. With a bang, the Corruptor's head was blasted, and it was instantly killed with one strike. After collection, a pile of useless materials was obtained. Baiye didn't throw it away, but left it in his backpack. He knows that this game has more than just himself as a player. Although players have talent, there are strengths and weaknesses in talent. The most crucial thing is that not all players can obtain a good weapon in the early stages, and they may even be able to exchange resources by synthesizing poisonous wooden sticks. On the screen of the mobile phone, mist surged and it was pitch black, with only 1 meter in diameter visible next to the character. In addition to the eerie background music, the rustling sound of the cold wind can also be faintly heard. Suddenly, roars echoed out from the deep mist. Baiye raised her eyebrows and looked surprised. It seems that they are all the voices of the Corruptors, but the quantity seems a bit high. This number of voices sounds like at least a dozen or so. Is there a building ahead? Baiye guessed. After all, the Corruptors are human-like creatures that have been contaminated. Even if someone is contaminated in the wilderness, there are only 1 or 2, not a dozen or so. So it is highly likely that there is a building ahead. Thinking of this, Baiye was not afraid, but instead showed an excited gaze. Architecture. Maybe there will be something good. Controlling the little man, Baiye leaned forward. After a while, the 3 Corruptors came into view, and they also noticed Baiye, roaring and charging towards them. Baiye remained calm and controlled the character to first evade the attacks of the Corruptors, then sought opportunities to strike down with a single blow, first dealing with one end, and then following suit to deal with the other 2 ends. In no time, the 3 Corruptors all died in the hands of Baiye. After collecting as usual, Baiye manipulated the little man to move forward for a distance. Sure enough, a corner of a dilapidated village appeared on the screen. Just as I thought. In this place it is said that the probability of having a treasure chest is much higher, so Baiye licked his lips, sat up straight, and while getting serious, a look of anticipation also appeared. Entering the village, the voices of the Corruptors echoed one after another. Obviously, there used to be many villagers here, but they were all polluted and became Corruptors. While exploring cautiously, Baiye also searched for some available resources in the village. You have picked up the wood, you have picked up the stone, you have picked up the iron, you have picked up the iron, you have picked up a corroded iron knife, you have picked up corroded armor. Sure enough, there's something good, duh. Looking at the prompt, Baiye laughed and immediately opened his backpack, where he saw corroded iron knives and armor. The iron sword was temporarily ignored, and Baiye's gaze fell on the armor, directly deciding to use the last chance of synthesis. Corroded armor plus iron. Motivating talent, the rust spots on the armor immediately dissipate and are replaced by a brand new luster. You have obtained a set of soldier armor. Description. Standard soldier armor from a certain empire has strong defensive capabilities, but it can also cause some degree of inconvenience in movement. Click on the equipment in the white knight. The little figure on the screen flashed white light, and then put on a set of blue and white armor, giving people a feeling of super strong defense. Seeing this, Baiye nodded with great satisfaction. His character has weapons. What is lacking is defense. Now that he has this set of armor, apart from anything else, at least the Corruptors in the village don't want to pose any threat to him. At the same time, this also indicates that he can now carry out mass killings in this village. Of course, the prerequisite is that there are no monsters in this village other than the corruptors. Open the treasure chest and disperse the lantern. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Because of the armor, the movements of the day and night are no longer as cautious as before, but rather more grand, just like visiting a village. The commotion became louder, which naturally caught the attention of the corrupt people in the village. Accompanied by the roar of his phone coming from afar, Bai Yi rubbed his hands and immediately prepared for battle. Soon, the figures of some corruptors entered the phone screen. Bai Yi controls the villain and begins to kill in all directions. With a stick, a brain melon seed will shatter. Moreover, due to their armor, Bai Yi is not afraid to face a large number of corruptors. As long as they are careful to avoid the acid of the corruptors, their ordinary attacks will not cause any damage to the villains. In no time, all 10 or so corruptors surrounding him were solved. Successfully collected, you have obtained Corroded Bones X12 and Corroded Venom X13. After collecting all the corpses of the corruptors, the corpses disappeared, and Bai Yi continued to manipulate the minions to explore the village. After entering a wooden house, a wooden treasure chest appeared in sight, making Bai Yi's eyes suddenly bright. I finally saw the treasure chest. Stepping forward to open the treasure chest, a soft glow emanated. You have opened the wooden treasure chest to obtain the dispelling lantern. Dispel the lantern. Description. A special lantern contains the energy of the flame of hope. The flames inside it never go out, and the emitted light can dispel black mist, increasing visibility by 1 meter. Surprisingly, this thing was opened. As soon as Bai Yi's eyes lit up, a smile immediately appeared. Although it may not seem helpful for combat, with this thing, one can see further and avoid more dangers. It is definitely a weapon for exploration. And this thing is very rare. Many people wanted it in the previous life, but due to its limited output, it has a price but no market. I didn't expect that my reborn self would gain it all at once. Did your luck also improve after being reborn? Bai Yi chuckled lightly and equipped it. Immediately after, an additional lantern appeared on the waist of the little person on the phone screen. The visibility on the screen suddenly doubled. More convenient for exploring villages during the day and night. 2 corruptors who were quietly approaching were also discovered and immediately manipulated by Bai Yi to go up to Bang Bang and deal with them with 2 sticks. Continuing to explore, Bai Yi quickly found a wooden treasure chest in another wooden house. TSK, those players from the previous life didn't deceive me. There are indeed many good things in the building complex. This is the second treasure chest. White Knight immediately opens. You have opened the wooden treasure chest and obtained the Incomplete Monster Guidebook. Incomplete Monster Guide. Description. In a world where evil gods are devouring, a knowledgeable mage travels the world to resist their invasion and creates a monster guidebook that contains detailed information about some monsters in the darkness. Unfortunately, it is incomplete and not complete. Monster Guide. At midnight, I opened my backpack and found the monster guidebook inside. Upon opening it, I found a total of 23 pages, each containing information and pictures of a particular monster. The first page is the familiar Corruptor of White Knight. Corruptors, Introduction. A monster contaminated by humanoid creatures, with weak strength and a weakness of the head, very fragile. Even ordinary people can kill it with weapons, but the prerequisite is to be careful of the opponent's acid, which has strong corrosiveness. At the same time, not all corruptors are weak, and corruptors formed by different creatures' pollution have different strengths. At least corruptors formed by orcs, elves, and other pollution have strong strength and need to be handled carefully, but their weakness is also the head. It's similar to what I know, but I haven't seen corruptors from races like orcs who pollute. The White Knight murmured and continued to browse. Some monsters that I have seen or heard of in the past are quite common. Such as ghouls, whistlers, bloodthirsty reptiles, and so on. If it is obtained by other players, they will definitely be overjoyed because as the saying goes, knowing oneself and the enemy is the key to victory. With the monster guidebook in hand, understanding more of the monster's weaknesses makes dealing with it easier. But for Bai Yi, this guidebook is of little use, as he knows most of the information. Wait a minute. Suddenly, Bai Yi's eyes lit up and he raised the corner of his mouth. Yes, I don't need it myself, but I can sell it to other players. Of course not selling the book in hand. But it's about making a copy directly and selling a copy if needed, which can earn a lot of money. Thinking of this, Bai Yi happily closed the picture book and prepared to continue exploring. He has explored a large part of the village, leaving only the last few houses untouched. Apart from a row of houses, Bai Yi discovered a two-story church there. After exploring a row of rooms, Bai Yi did not find the treasure chest, only collected some materials. So far, all the wood and stones in his backpack have exceeded 1,000. Of course, the more basic materials he has, the better. As long as he sees them, he will not let them go. If it weren't for the concern that demolishing the house would cause too much noise, it might attract some terrifying monsters. Bai Yi had already demolished these houses in the village and recycled materials. Come to the church. Take a careful look at Bai Yi. The church. I don't know if there are runes inside. White Knight's eyes flickered with a glimmer of hope. The worlds fused in the Dark Land possess extraordinary powers. The religious organizations where the church is located are generally powerful and will spread extraordinary cultivation methods. In the Dark Land, these cultivation methods will be transformed into runes, which can directly give players power. This is what he learned in his previous life. The church as a whole looks like a tall tower, surrounded by a stone courtyard, with a wooden door on the front. Bai Yi controlled the character to push open the wooden door and walked in. The next moment, Bai Yi saw a white figure standing in the courtyard, staring directly at him. Before he could react, the figure suddenly erupted into a terrifying and piercing scream. Even in the White Knight outside the screen, I feel a wave of dizziness. With a bang, the game character's head explodes directly. You're dead. The screen was pitch black, with blood-red prompts emerging. Bai Yi's face suddenly changed, very ugly. Damn it, how could there be whistlers in this church? He recognized the monster. Known as the Screamer, it can emit a terrifying scream that kills people. This kind of monster usually wanders in the wilderness, but unexpectedly appears in the church. Bai Yi felt a bit regretful in his heart. After all, the character had died, and today he couldn't enter the game again. If I had known earlier, he should have been more cautious. After shaking his head and muttering a curse, Bai Yi withdrew from the game. Looking at the time, before I knew it, it was already 2 o'clock in the morning. He was immersed in the game without realizing that 5 or 6 hours had passed. After regaining consciousness at this moment, I felt a hint of fatigue emanating from my mind. After yawning and going to the bathroom to wash up during the day, I also fell asleep, preparing for tomorrow. For Nameless Forum. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I slept comfortably and peacefully during the day and night. Not as timid and fearful as in the previous life, sometimes waking up in the middle of the night to check if there are powerful monsters approaching outside the shelter. Rubbing his sleepy eyes, Bai Yi took a look at his wake-up phone at 10 o'clock in the morning. I yawned and woke up at night to wash up. After ordering takeout after a long absence, I came to my computer and started searching for a forum called The Unknown. This is a place established by the authorities specifically for players of the Dark Shelter game to communicate. Because this game was first discovered by official personnel, and then passed on layer by layer, reaching the top management. Then, this forum was created and a dedicated department was established. As long as you click on this forum, the official IP address will be obtained as soon as possible, and some questions will be asked to determine whether the user is a real player. In the last life, I heard from others, so I knew everything about this dim sum in the daytime, but I didn't care about it at all. Because he knows that the official purpose of establishing this forum is not only to allow players to share information, but also to gather players to serve the official, but it is not mandatory. The most important thing is to determine the identity of the players and prevent them from committing evil. Even if they do evil, as long as their identity is confirmed, it is easy to arrest them. Bai Yi has no intention of doing evil, so naturally there is no need to worry about it. After entering the keywords, press the Enter key. A forum quickly caught the eye. Bai Yi's gaze flickered and he murmured. Sure enough, I'm not the first player, I'm afraid there were already many players in this game before me. In addition to domestic players, there are also many players from all over the world. And the quantity will continue to increase in the future. There are only 3 sections in total in the forum. Help, Communicate, and Transact. After entering the forum, it will automatically enter the Communication section. At this point, there are already many posts here. Please help. How can we deal with the corruptors? We can't even defeat them. Does anyone know who made this game? I vomited, is this game too difficult? I died right after leaving the shelter. Do you have any brothers to share their exploration experience with? Penguin Group cordially invites players to join, with plenty of benefits, high annual salary, and even free gifts for wives. Hahaha, I took off and I actually got a piece of rune. Upon seeing the last post, Bai Yi looked surprised and immediately clicked in. A picture immediately caught the eye. Professional Basic Rune. Warrior. Description. After use, you can obtain extraordinary basic professional warriors, as well as corresponding specialization and talents, passive blessings. Surprisingly, someone got the rune so quickly, it's still a professional rune. To be honest, Bai Yi was a bit envious. After all, having such a rune is equivalent to obtaining extraordinary power directly, even the Whistler can easily solve it. Damn it, the Emperor of Europe is going to die. Bai Yi couldn't help but curse inwardly, then flipped down and found that many people were shouting for a deal, and some even offered 2 billion yuan to buy this rune. Unfortunately, the person who posted this post chose to refuse. Just thinking about it, having a profession rune can give you powerful power, making exploration easier and gaining more good things. Who would lose out on small things? Shaking his head, Bai Yi thought for a moment, picked up his phone, and clicked on the game. As soon as you enter the game, the screen shows a picture of the shelter. After the game character dies, they will automatically be reborn in the shelter the next day when they enter. I opened my backpack at midnight, found the monster guidebook inside, took a screenshot, and then realized it. The monster guidebook immediately appeared out of thin air, emitting a decadent and ancient aura. Looking at the picture book, Bai Yi grinned. Although I don't have willpower runes, this thing is also good. Without hesitation, he immediately posted a post on the forum and uploaded the explanation of the monster guidebook, indicating which monsters were on it, and then priced it at 10,000 yuan per book. Although it may seem expensive, it is actually not expensive. Because this game can only take out or put in items from the game, real things cannot be brought into the game, so it is easy for players to make money. Especially among players, there are some members of financial conglomerates who are not short of money, just equipment. Even a long sword can be sold for tens of thousands of yuan. For example, the set of armor synthesized by Bai Yi yesterday, if sold, can definitely sell for over 100,000 yuan. So even though players may feel sorry for the price of 10,000 yuan, it is easy to purchase. As expected. After Bai Yi posted the post, many more replies quickly emerged. Sleeping trough, is there such a good thing? Why didn't the landlord take it out early? If I had taken it out early, I wouldn't have died yesterday. 10,000 yuan. It's so cheap. I've already paid. Hurry up and send me the things. Are you in the Magic City? Great, I'm also here. Please send me over, I can't help but kill in the game. Do you even have information about the female demon in the forest? Great, I'll buy it. Woo-woo, why did you all get good things, but only I got some moldy food? Please be content upstairs. I've been playing this game for 2 days, and now there are only some stones and wood. I haven't seen anything else. Bai Yi looked at the comments, his lips curved upwards. Let's see. He said this price is very cheap. However, at this moment, the text message in the upper right corner of the screen suddenly flashed, indicating that someone was chatting privately. Bai Yi clicked in and an ID named Desya sent a message. Desya. Bai Yi's gaze flickered for a moment and immediately guessed the other person's identity. Desya. Hello, may I ask if the Monster Illustrated book really has some weaknesses and information about monsters? 111111, yes. Desya said, okay, I'll take one. The money has already been transferred to you, and you don't need to send anything. I'll personally go to your place to pick it up later and make some identity records, can I? 111111, sure, no problem. Desya. It seems that you know my identity now. 111111, hahaha, it's obvious. Desya. That's right, I'll see you later. Bai Yi smiled and crossed off the forum page because the takeout had arrived. After finishing breakfast, Bai Yi also prepared to go out. After purchasing a printer and corresponding materials nearby, he immediately went home and started printing the monster guidebook. Because the monster guidebook doesn't have much content, it only has 23 pages in total and can be printed quickly. However, Bai Yi didn't print too many, there were only 100 copies in total. Because this thing obviously won't last long, it can only earn some money in the short term. When it spreads, everyone will know and no one will buy it. 1 million is enough for day and night. He just wants to use this money to purchase a large amount of supplies in the future, to prepare for the arrival of darkness. Although things from reality cannot be brought into the game. But when darkness falls, the world will undergo tremendous changes, and it will be like the end of the world, with not only monsters but also various terrifying disasters. Bai Yi remembers very clearly that the first occurrence in the previous life was an extremely cold natural disaster, which lasted for the entire 3 months. Under the natural disaster, the ice was piercing, and many people, even if covered in 5 layers of blankets and baked on fire, were still frozen to death. As for exploring outside, that's even more impossible. So it is very important to prepare the materials in advance. 1 million is completely enough. 5 best-selling guidebooks, declined official invitation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At noon. Bai Yi entered the forum and took a look. 27 people have already made purchases and made payments. Some people happen to be in the Magic City. Some are in nearby cities. Bai Yi had no intention of personally delivering it, but instead went directly to a nearby express delivery, all of which were sent out, and the buyers were notified. When he returned home, Bai Yi found a man and a woman standing at the door. The man is facing an ordinary person, wearing a suit and balding, looking like an ordinary office worker. But it was a woman, young and beautiful, wearing white casual clothes. When she saw Bai Yi, she took the initiative to walk over and smiled. First time meeting, Mr. Bai Yi. Are you too? Although there was some speculation in my heart, Bai Yi still asked. The girl introduced herself with a smile. My name is Ni Meng, and this is Wang Jiangwo. We are staff members of the Night Patrol Magic City branch. I even talked to you on the forum this morning, and my ID is Desya. Sure enough. Bai Yi nodded and smiled. You two should be here to get the monster guidebook, right? I'm ready, please wait a moment, I'll go get it for you. Hey, it's not urgent. Wang Jiangwo quickly stopped Bai Yi and smiled. Although the Monster Illustrated is also for the purpose of coming, there are 2 other things that need to be learned from Mr. Bai. Oh. Let's talk first in the house. Bai Yi invited the two into the room, poured 2 cups of tea, and then asked. I don't know which 2 things Mr. Wang is talking about. First of all, it's naturally a matter of gaming. Wang Jiangwo said. Mr. Bai probably understands the uniqueness of this game, so let's confirm your identity. Of course, this does not mean anything, it's just a record. As long as Mr. Bai doesn't do anything outrageous, nothing will happen. Well, I'm very willing to cooperate. Bai Yi had already anticipated this and took the initiative to take out his various documents, asking the 2 of them to take photos and record. After finishing these, Wang Jiangwo glanced at Ni Meng. Ni Meng took a deep breath and spoke up. Besides, we have one more thing. Bai Yi remained silent, showing a listening posture. Ni Meng Dao. We sincerely invite Mr. Bai to join the Night Patrol organization and contribute to the official cause. When Bai Yi was about to refuse, Ni Meng continued. Mr. Bai Yi doesn't need to rush to refuse, just listen to me finish speaking. Seeing this, Bai Yi could only make a gesture of, you continue, and then continue to listen. Ni Mengqing thought to himself. If Mr. Bai Yi is willing to join the Night Patrol organization, the official will provide you with a weapon that can be helpful for early exploration for free. At the same time, we also have various special rewards obtained from the game internally, including extraordinary items that can be obtained through exchange. Joining the Night Patrol, the official will not restrict your freedom, as well as various social benefits and high salaries. How does Mr. Bai Yi feel? After all, this is summer, not any other country. The official attitude towards players is very tolerant. As long as you do not commit crimes and live like an ordinary person, you will not be subject to compulsory action. Of course, it would be even better if we could join the official team, and the benefits are not low. However, Bai Yi still refused on the spot. Because he knows that the world will soon be shrouded in darkness and natural disasters, if he really wants to join the official team, it will be a hard work, although there are also benefits, such as better security in the event of darkness. But regaining a lifetime, seizing the opportunity, and possessing powerful talents, Bai Yi prefers to be alone. Although there were some expectations, Ni Meng and the others were still very disappointed. Ni Meng asked. Can you ask why? Bai Yi smiled and said. There's no special reason, it's just a simple dislike of being bound, in any form. Finally, Bai Yi added. Of course, if there is any need in the future, I am also willing to provide assistance to the official. Upon hearing this, Ni Meng and Wang Jiangwo nodded. Since Bai Yi refused, they no longer stayed and hurriedly left after taking the monster guidebook. Bai Yi also ordered takeout, enjoyed lunch, and then began today's game journey. 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Bai Yi turned on the air conditioning, sat on the bed with a phone, and clicked on the game. Familiar background music plays. On the screen, a picture of the shelter appeared. Bai Yi controlled the little man to a separate small room in the shelter. There is a metal ball here. This is the core of the shelter, and upgrading the shelter is done here. As they approached, information about the shelter surfaced. Shelter to belonging. White Knight. Size. 100 square meters. Number of upgrades. None. Number of evolutions. None. Seismic grade. 1. Sound insulation level. 1. Insulation level. 1. Comfort level. 1. Layout. Core room X1, bedroom X1, living room X1, bathroom X1. Special buildings. None. Current upgrade requirements. Wood X1000, stone X1000, iron X100. The shelter can evolve once every 3 upgrades. Bai Yi looked at the materials in his backpack and found them to be completely sufficient, so he directly took out all the materials and put them into the core, then clicked on upgrade. I saw a soft white glow emanating from the core, covering the entire screen. After waiting for a minute, the light finally dissipated. The pattern inside the shelter suddenly changed drastically. Firstly, there is the wall, which used to be mud, but now it has all turned into stone, and the floor and ceiling have become wood. The range has doubled, which is very spacious and allows Bai to arrange it freely. Seismic resistance, sound insulation, thermal insulation, and comfort level all +1. There were no new special entries added, such as resisting demons, eliminating spirits, and so on. Bai is not disappointed, because these entries are only likely to be obtained during evolution. After upgrading, Bai cleared some of the materials in his backpack and placed them all in the shelter, then controlled the character to go out. Go and get rid of that whistler first. The White Knight decides the way. Since there is a whistler in that church, it is highly likely that there will be something good. Even if not, killing the Screeper is not a disadvantage, and one should be able to collect good materials for synthesis. Although he died in the hands of the Screamer yesterday, it was because he was not prepared and on guard. Now that I know, Bai naturally has confidence. Not to mention anything else, in his previous life, he killed the Screamer a lot. He has the ability and confidence to solve it. Kill the Screamer, Profession Rune. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although he returned to the shelter due to death, Bai controlled the character to move forward because he remembered the direction, and soon arrived at the village he discovered yesterday. On the way, I also encountered some scattered corruptors who were easily solved by Bai and collected some materials. After arriving at the village again, the phone screen could hear the roar of some corruptors. It seems that many corrosives gathered here again yesterday. With a murmur from Bai, fearless at all, he manipulated the villain to step into the village, wielding a highly poisonous wooden stick, and began to engage in mass killings. If you hit the watermelon with a stick, it would shatter your head. Bai chopped all the way from the village entrance to the innermost part of the village, without even blinking his eyes. In no time, we arrived at the church. Like yesterday, it was cold and silent. However, this time, Bai was much more cautious and cautious. Slowly approaching, I arrived at the door and quietly pushed open the church door without causing any movement. As the door pushed open, Bai saw a whistler wandering aimlessly inside. The Screamer floats like a ghost, but has a physical form that takes on a human form. Its face is only covered in a mouth full of fangs, and its skin is grayish-white, making it look very strange and eerie. The Screamer is a typical monster in the darkness, born from the power of evil gods, rather than being contaminated like the Corruptor. In fact, when strength is said to be strong, it is also said to be weak. Because the most important thing is the sharp whistling sound it emits, which can not only shatter a person's body, but also cause harm to their spirit. So even in front of the screen, I felt uncomfortable last night. But dealing with it is also extremely simple. Just plug your ears. That's right, it's that simple. As long as the whistler's voice is not heard, it can be easily resolved. So in the previous life, when exploring during the day and night, I often prepared a few earplugs in my arms to guard against whistlers. This game, created by the will of the earth, may seem crude but is extremely realistic. Bai opened his backpack and found a piece of rag inside, which he had picked up in the village before coming. Clicking on it brought up many options, including a tearing option. Under the click, the rag is split in half. Click again, and many options pop up, including the option to insert ear. Click immediately on Bai. At the position of the character's ears on the screen, there are 2 extra balls of burlap. After finishing these, Bai raised his lips and controlled the character to step into the church in a grand manner. I saw the whistler detected immediately and burst out with a scream as he opened his bloody mouth. The rag is difficult to completely isolate, and there are still some sounds that can be heard, which is painful but tolerable. Bai seized the time and immediately controlled the character to rush over, aiming at the head of the Screamer and waving a highly poisonous wooden stick. Go to hell. With a loud bang, a powerful blow. The whistler stumbled but did not fall to death. Obviously, its load-bearing capacity is much stronger than that of corrosives. But Bai Yi remained calm and clicked the attack button again. With a bang, there was another stick. This time the whistler finally fell to the ground. Although the brain melon seeds did not shatter, they also lost their vitality. Do you want to collect it? Of course. Click Yes on Bai Yi. Prompt appears. Successfully collected, you have obtained the skin of the screamer. Not bad. Bai Yi raised the corners of his mouth and nodded in satisfaction. He remembers that the screamer produces two materials, one is the screamer's skin and the other is the screamer's heart. They are all quite useful. The former can be ground into powder and added to building materials, making it a good sound insulation material. The latter is a material for making potions, which seems to have a brief increase in speed, but unfortunately, Bai Yi does not know the formula. After solving the screamer, there will be no enemies in the church. Otherwise, he would have come out just as he was fighting the screamer. So Bai Yi can make this judgment. Next, he began to explore the interior of the church, searching for some useful resources. In no time, Bai Yi found useful items under the statue in the church hall. Divine water, explanation. In religious beliefs, there is a special water source that is rumored to contain divine power shed by deities, which has the effect of removing curses from the body and has a certain degree of killing power against evil spirits. Good thing. A smile appeared on Bai Yi's face. Divine water is placed in a golden bottle in front of the statue, with a volume of approximately 200 milliliters, neither too much nor too much. Bai Yi immediately put it away, hesitated for a moment, and finally clicked on his backpack to prepare for synthesis. Iron plus corroded iron knife. Although the wooden stick in my hand is also good, its power is still much weaker compared to iron weapons. If I had a suitable weapon, I could instantly kill the screamer with just one strike, and I wouldn't need a second strike. The synthesis count has been refreshed today, so Bai Yi plans to first get the weapon out. As for the highly poisonous wooden stick, it can be kept and taken out when encountering suitable enemies. It can also be sold to others. Activate talent and ability, click to synthesize. Two items merge, and a brand new iron knife emerges. Successfully synthesized, you have obtained the item. Iron knife. Iron knife, description. A weapon carefully crafted by a blacksmith, very sharp. Equip it and replace the wooden stick in the character's hand with a long sword. By contrast, it looks much more imposing and has more killing power than a wooden stick. Next, Bai Yi continues to search. Unfortunately, this church has existed for too long, and many things inside have rotted and lost their value. Even day and night can only collect some materials. It wasn't until 6 or 7 minutes later that I finally saw the harvest on the second floor. It is a black iron treasure chest emitting a metallic luster, lying quietly in the corner of the second floor. Bai Yi happily stepped forward and directly opened the treasure chest. You have opened the black iron chest and obtained the basic profession runed mage. With the soft light emanating from the treasure chest, Bai Yi's expression froze and then showed ecstasy. Surprisingly, it's a professional rune. I cursed that person this morning as the European Emperor, but the European Emperor turned out to be me. Ha ha ha, I like it. White Knight happily picked up the rune, and information also emerged. Professional basic rune. Mage. Description. After use, you can obtain extraordinary basic profession mages, as well as corresponding specialization and talents, which can be passively blessed. Without any hesitation, click to use it directly. The rune culture shines into the character's body. Subsequently, a series of prompts appeared on the screen. You have obtained profession. Mage. You have obtained the wizard's talent. Meditation. You have obtained mage specialization. Elemental affinity. You have acquired the basic mage skill. Fireball PS. Did anyone watch it? 7 Skill Synthesis, Powerful Power. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Feeling the sudden surge of inexplicable energy in his body, Bai raised the corner of his mouth and showed an excited smile. Extraordinary power, I have surprisingly gained it so quickly in this life. In his previous life, he only obtained a mage rune 3 months after the darkness fell, and he also exchanged a lot of resources from others. And in this life, he only needs 2 days. Using a mage's rune, his body also gave birth to magic and possessed elemental affinity, which is essential for mages to release magic. Without elemental affinity, elemental magic cannot be released. In addition, meditation can restore magic during rest. Of course, the most crucial aspect is the mage's basic magic, Fireball. This is an extraordinary skill. With this skill in hand, the exploration of the White Knight will be even smoother. Due to the unique nature of the game, although only professional runes were used in the game, in reality, White Knight has become stronger and gained the ability of a mage. And physical fitness has also been strengthened. Of course, the most reinforcement is still the spirit, at least more than twice as much as before. After getting familiar with it, Bai clicked on the attribute. White Knight, Transcendent Sequence. Mage. Level 1. Professional Skill. Fireball Technique. Professional Talent. Meditation. Professional Specialization. Elemental Affinity. Equipment. Iron Knife. Talent. Synthetic Hand, you have the ability to synthesize any item 3 times a day, which can be upgraded. Not bad. The attributes have undergone significant changes compared to before. The level has also reached 1. However, it will be difficult to further improve in the future. Upgrading requires career advancement. Career advancement is diverse and requires higher level runes. Just like the promotion runes for a mage profession, there are over a dozen types that Bai knows. Extreme Cold Mage, Flame Mage, Magic Swordsman, and so on. This level of professional rune is very rare, and I don't expect it in the short term. I don't know if my talent can synthesize higher level career runes. Bai touched his chin with some curiosity. However, this kind of synthesis requires at least a basic professional rune as the material, and we cannot try it now. We can only wait until later. Turn off the attributes, and Bai controls the character to leave the church. This village has already been explored, and he is preparing to explore in another direction. As for leaving the village and heading further away, Bai doesn't have this idea for now. The further you explore, the farther away you will be from the shelter, and it will be troublesome to go back then. The backpack space is just so big, but he has to go back occasionally to clean up the harvest. Leaving the village, the little man stepped into the surging mist. A big walk is a bold move. The mist surged like waves. The gentle breeze rustled the leaves. Accompanied by a roar, a corrosionist rushed into view and spat out acid. Bai controls the character to dodge agilely, and his backhand is a fireball spell. With a bang, the Corruptor split into pieces on the spot. At the same time, Bai also felt the decrease of magic in his body. It has decreased by approximately 1/5. That's right, the characters in the game use their skills, reducing their magic in reality. After all, strictly speaking, the character in the game is him, but if he dies in the game, he won't die. So it seems that I can cast fireball spells up to 5 times at a time. That's enough. The power of fireball technique is not small, not to mention the Corruptor, the Screamer can also kill in 1 strike. Released 5 times in a row, some powerful monsters couldn't handle it. By the way, can skills be synthesized? Bai suddenly had this idea and decided to give it a try. Open the attributes and click on the skill. An option pops up immediately. Can be synthesized. Sleeping trough, is it really possible? Bai Yi widened her eyes and looked surprised. Immediately afterwards, there was a face of ecstasy. If skills can be synthesized, it can undoubtedly make power stronger. Without hesitation, Bai Yi immediately clicked to synthesize. As for synthetic materials, Bai Yi also had an idea in the first place. Divine water. That's right. That's it. Although in Bai Yi's view, the acid collected from the corroding corpse can also be used for synthesis, divine water is obviously better. Take a deep breath and start working day and night. Fireball technique, plus, divine water. Click to synthesize. Successfully synthesized, your fireball skill disappears, and you have obtained a new skill. Divine Flame Technique. Divine Flame Technique, description. A flame containing divine power, with extremely high temperature, has strong killing power against dark and evil creatures, and also has a certain healing effect. So strong, ha. Watching the effect of the synthesized divine flame technique, Bai Yi couldn't help but burst into laughter. Click to release the skill and try it out during the day. I saw a golden white flame floating in the hand of the character, like a fire snake running towards a big tree. The big tree was instantly burned, but in just 1 or 2 seconds it turned into a pile of ashes. The powerful power far surpasses the fireball technique, leaving Bai Yi stunned. But then his face changed slightly. Hiss, it consumes a lot. He felt the crazy consumption of magic within his body. It's twice as much as fireball magic. In this way, I can release the divine flame technique at most twice at once. Bite your teeth, you can release it 3 times, but after the 3rd release, you'll probably be exhausted and faint. How to say it? Although it may not release as many times as fireball, its power is greater, so the benefits outweigh the drawbacks. But it also reminded Bai Yi. Next, you cannot synthesize skills casually. Although the combined power has indeed become much stronger, one's own magic is not enough to support their release. Next, we need to find ways to increase our magic power. Shaking his head, Bai Yi took a deep breath, put down his phone, and began to meditate, restoring his magic. After meditating for half an hour, the magic was almost restored, and Bai Yi then controlled the character to continue exploring. Along the way, I encountered some corruptors. Without using the divine flame technique, Bai Yi directly killed them with an iron knife and then collected them. Unconsciously, Bai Yi arrived in front of a big mountain. The mountains are lush, with clusters of vigorous ancient trees, but they are shrouded in darkness, looking extremely eerie. Bai Yi pondered for a moment and controlled the character to walk into the mountains. Accompanied by a roar, a black shadow suddenly struck. Bai Yi turned around vigilantly to avoid it, and upon closer inspection, he discovered that it was a wild boar. It's just a polluted wild boar, huge in size, as if wearing black armor, with huge and terrifying fangs. In the mountains of the Dark Land, it is far more dangerous than elsewhere. Bai Yi didn't dare to be careless and carefully controlled the character. When the wild boar charged again, it was like a tank rushing towards it. Bai Yi didn't dare to resist, so he quickly dodged and swung his iron knife at the right time to strike the wild boar. With a clang, sparks splattered everywhere. There was almost a gap on the iron knife, but there was not even a trace left on the wild boar. Damn it, so hard. Bai Yi widened his eyes, couldn't help but smack his tongue, and quickly put away the iron knife. He was afraid that he would continue to cut it, and his knife would be useless. Roar. The wild boar roared and, after being contaminated, had no reason at all. After regaining consciousness, it charged towards White Knight again. White Knight stands tall and fearless, with a backhand that is a divine flame technique. A golden and white flame rose up and roared away, instantly enveloping the wild boar. 8 polluted beasts, trading markets. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Accompanied by the painful howls of the wild boar, it was soon burned alive by the divine flame technique, emitting a scorching aroma of roasted meat. Bai Yi stepped forward, looking at the charred corpse, and clicked to collect it. Successfully collected, you have obtained contaminated animal skin X1, sharp wild boar teeth X2, and contaminated animal bones X3. Not bad. Bai nodded slightly, satisfied with the things collected. These materials can sometimes be used for synthesis, but if one can find a blacksmith or learn blacksmith's forging skills in the future, they can also be used to craft equipment. In short, more is better. Even the White Knight will not give up. When he used to play other games, he was just a trash guy, especially fond of playing open-world games and picking up trash everywhere. In this real game, it is no exception. After resting for a while, Bai continued to walk towards the mountains. Next, he became much more cautious. Because the monsters in the mountains are stronger, they are mostly monsters contaminated by wild beasts, which are much harder to deal with than corruptors. Some monsters have rough skin and thick flesh, and cannot be attacked even by day and night. They can only use the Divine Flame technique to defeat the enemy. But the Divine Flame technique can only be released 3 times at most, and after 3 times, he will stop eating. I have no choice but to be cautious. However cautious Bai may be, he will still be found by the monster. After only a few steps, I encountered a polluted python, covered in black scales, as if wearing a suit of armor like that wild boar. White Knight controls the character to wield a knife and cut up, and you can see sparks shooting outwards. That's really hard to cut. Helpless, Bai could only use the Divine Flame technique again to kill it. Successfully collected, you have obtained contaminated animal skins X1. Looking at the prompts on the phone screen, Bai took a deep breath and his face turned slightly pale. Tired. Excessive consumption of magic. Bai had no choice but to temporarily exit the game and sit cross-legged on the bed to recover. Quietly meditating for half an hour, the magic finally regained its essence. At this moment, Bai also noticed that the sky outside the window seemed to dim at some point. It's already 6 o'clock. So fast. Bai picked up his phone and glanced at the time, feeling surprised. Immersed in the game, he never expected time to pass so quickly. Shaking his head, Bai picked up his phone and simply walked out of bed. After having dinner outside, Bai bought a large amount of supplies and returned home, hoarding them. Foods such as instant noodles, spicy strips, canned food, rice, as well as oil, salt, vinegar sauce, and so on. Buying too much at once can lead to suspicion, so I don't buy too much during the day and night. I plan to buy some every day in the future. When I got home, it was already 8 p.m. Without rushing to play the game, Bai lay in bed with his phone and entered the Nameless Forum. Compared to yesterday, today's forum looks much livelier. There should be many new players joining. Bai estimated. At first glance, there are also many new posts. On July 3rd, the official will open the offline trading market in Magic City. I just discovered this game today, it's amazing. I thought it was my golden finger, but I didn't expect everyone to be able to play it. Finally found the organization. Woo, do you have a guide? Please. Fafuli, as long as you join the official team, you can get a free weapon, which can be a great way to explore new territories. Brothers, are there other races in this game? I've discovered the Doghead Man, I'm not sure if we can communicate. Heavy money for equipment, materials can also be exchanged. Interested parties come quickly. On July 3rd, the official will open the offline trading market in Magic City. Bai was immediately attracted to the first post at a glance. After clicking in and taking a look, a ray of semen flashed in my eyes. The official actually established offline trading. This is a good thing. At least for White Knight. Because the organizer of offline transactions is the official, at least there is no need to worry about someone eating black. After all, such a game can give people power, and no one knows if the darkness in the hearts of other players will be magnified. It has official hosting, and at least internal security is guaranteed. And in this way, Bai can also engage in some in-game transactions with other players. The time is tomorrow. Bai looked at the location and found it somewhat remote in the suburbs. But it's normal to think about it. After all, this game cannot be known to ordinary people, otherwise it will cause chaos. To prevent accidents, it is necessary to stay away from areas where ordinary people gather. In addition, Bai also clicked in to read the post about encountering a dog-headed person. The person who posted the post explained that he was a new player who played the game on his first day. As soon as he entered the game, he was in a mountain. After exploring for a while, he discovered a dog-headed man camp. However, he didn't know if the other party was good or bad, so he didn't approach recklessly, and coincidentally found out that this was a place for players to communicate, so he wanted to come here and ask. There are many comments below. Someone suggests taking the initiative. Someone suggests secretly peeping. Some people also suggest taking a detour. White Knight's eyes were full of envy. Doghead, this is a treasure race. Doghead people are not particularly powerful, but they have a hobby similar to dragons, like collecting shiny things and mining. In addition, doghead people have a special nose and can smell the location of various minerals. Therefore, as long as you find a group of doghead people, there may be minerals nearby. Even if not, there will definitely be good things in your hands. Perhaps some treasures are missing. But just iron ore and copper ore are definitely essential for players. Upgrading the shelter in the later stage is necessary. Unfortunately, I didn't encounter it myself, otherwise there would be no need to worry about upgrading the resources of the shelter in the early stage. After browsing the forum for a while, I had almost rested during the day and night. I sat up straight and clicked on the game, ready to continue exploring. On the screen, the scene was dim, with only a faint light emanating from the character to dispel the surrounding black mist. The sound of wild beasts roaring occasionally echoed in the mountains. White Knight controls the character and walks carefully in the mountains. The wind howls like ghosts, making people inexplicably afraid. I didn't encounter any polluted beasts this time, and it was very calm, which relieved Bai. With his current strength, the polluted beasts can only use skills and ordinary methods cannot cause any damage. However, the skill can only be released 2 or 3 times, and once used up, it must be offline to restore magic, so it is best not to encounter beasts. However, at this moment, Bai suddenly stopped manipulating and listened attentively. Vaguely, he seemed to hear something moving and making a sound in the distance. PS, seeking flowers and tickets. 9. The Battle of Extraordinary Beasts. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Are there monsters fighting against each other nearby? The White Knight pondered silently. After hesitating for a while, I decided to go and take a look. Following the direction of the sound, Bai groped past. In no time, we arrived at our destination. When he saw the scene in front of him clearly, Bai's face showed surprise. As he expected, there were indeed 2 wild beasts fighting each other. A lion with blood-red eyes. A sturdy white tiger. To his surprise, the white tiger's eyes remained clear. Obviously, it has not been contaminated and remains rational. When you first encounter a smart creature, activate the voice function, and players can have a conversation with the smart creature in the game by speaking directly. At this point, a prompt also appeared on the screen. After taking a glance, Bai didn't pay much attention, but continued to focus on the battle between the 2 wild beasts. Roar. Accompanied by a roar, the white tiger opened its bloody mouth, and a chill surged out, instantly freezing the huge blood lion in front of it into an ice sculpture. This is actually an extraordinary beast. Seeing this, Bai's expression froze, and a wary expression appeared in his eyes. Fortunately, he did not show his face boldly. The strength of extraordinary beasts is generally very strong, and once discovered, he may not necessarily be an opponent. At this moment, cracks appeared on the ice sculpture and a clicking sound sounded. With a loud bang, the ice sculpture emitting a chill shattered, and the blood lion roared. After breaking free from its constraints, it suddenly pounced on the white tiger, waving its sharp claws and flapping it away. The next moment, the blood lion also opened its bloodthirsty mouth, and a red light converged, spewing out a blazing flame. Bai Yi was once again surprised, not expecting that this blood lion also possessed extraordinary power. But then an excited expression appeared on his face. After all, if two extraordinary wild beasts, sandpipers and clams, compete, he can benefit from it. Not to mention anything else, if extraordinary beasts collect them, they will definitely obtain extraordinary materials. Coupled with their own talents, they may even be able to synthesize too powerful equipment. However, there are even extraordinary beasts in this mountain, and I casually encountered two. I still need to be more careful when exploring in the future. He doesn't want to face extraordinary beasts, at least with his current strength. Encountering extraordinary beasts is still too risky. The White Knight murmured and continued to observe. The blazing flames swept away like waves. Perhaps the crisis of death was ahead, and White Tiger quickly got up, spewing out cold air and competing with flames. Compared to the White Tiger, the Blood Lion is 3 points weaker. Under the cold air, the flame's power continued to weaken until it was completely crushed by the cold air, enveloping the Blood Lion and freezing again into an ice sculpture. The White Tiger's gaze was cold and piercing, and without hesitation, it rushed towards the ice sculpture. With a flick of its paw and a click, the ice sculpture shattered and the Blood Lion inside also shattered. After solving the Blood Lion, White Tiger did not rest or leave, but suddenly turned his head towards White Knight and let out a roar. "Oh, have I been discovered?" Bai Ye's expression was taken aback, feeling surprised. But as Bai Hu was about to open his mouth and breathe cold air, Bai Yi hesitated for a moment and chose to take the initiative to walk out. "Well, Tiger Lord, why don't we just close our mouths first? I don't mean any harm." Bai Yi awkwardly spoke up. He knows that as long as it is not contaminated, extraordinary beasts have enough wisdom to communicate with humans. Sure enough, upon seeing Bai Yi, a touch of humanized surprise flashed in Bai Hu's eyes, as if surprised that in such a world, normal humans could still be seen. White Knight did not have any malicious intent, and White Tiger felt it, so the cold air condensed in his mouth dissipated. Then, with a loud bang, he lay on the ground, gasping for breath, and let out a faint moan of pain. Bai Yi frowned when she heard the sound and looked over. I didn't notice before, but now he realizes that there is a torn wound on the abdomen of the White Tiger, constantly flowing with blood. It should be a masterpiece of the previous Blood Lion. If it were a normal world, with the strength of a White Tiger, it would be easy to recover. Just find some herbs to eat. But in this world shrouded in darkness, it is difficult to find herbs to reach the sky. There are not many ordinary weeds in sight, and the big trees in this mountain are all bare, let alone herbs. The White Tiger licked the wound, attempting to recover with saliva, but unfortunately the blood continued to flow incessantly. After thinking for a while, Bai Yi made a decision and walked towards Bai Hu with his foot raised. Roar! White Tiger immediately looked up and let out a warning roar, warning White Knight not to approach. Bai Yi quickly stopped and explained. "I have no malice, it's just that you're injured. If you don't heal, you'll definitely die. If you believe me, you can let me help you. I can heal your injury." He is not very kind-hearted. But in the Dark Land, it is rare for wild beasts to remain sober without being polluted, let alone those with extraordinary power. If this were brought to the shelter, it would be like earning blood. In order to prevent Bai Hu from not believing, Bai Yi even raised his hand and used the Divine Flame technique. However, this time the Divine Flame technique did not display the scorching heat, but emitted a divine aura. This is another ability of Divine Flame technique, healing. As long as he is willing, Divine Flame technique can be used to kill or save people. White Tiger also felt the uniqueness of the Divine Flame technique, with a hesitant expression in his eyes. However, it seemed that something had come to his mind. White Tiger nodded and actively turned over, revealing his wound to White Knight. Seeing this, Bai Ye's expression was filled with joy. Knowing that Bai Hu had chosen to believe in himself, he immediately approached and reached out to approach the wound under Bai Hu's gaze, performing the Divine Flame technique. As the divine light covered the wound, it began to heal at a visible speed to the naked eye. Meanwhile, Bai Ye's face turned pale at a visible speed to the naked eye. After a while of effort, Bai Hu's injury was healed. Bai Yi quickly dispersed the Divine Flame technique, panting heavily while sweating profusely on his forehead. The healing ability of this Divine Flame technique consumes more magic than I thought. In just this moment, the magic in his body was completely consumed. Bai Hu lowered his head and continued to lick the seat where the previous wound was. Bai Yi didn't disturb, but got up and walked towards the body of the blood lion, reaching out to collect it. Successfully collected, you have obtained Contaminated Flame Lion Skin X1, and you have obtained Fire Crystal X1. Open the backpack and Bai Yi looked at the instructions. The animal skin is good and has a good insulation effect. And flint, on the other hand, is the power core of the flame lion, containing the energy of the fire element, making it a great material. Bai Yi already has the idea of synthesis. Roar. At this point, Bai Hu had already licked his wound and came behind Bai Yi with a low growl. Bai Yi was startled and quickly turned around, looking at the huge white tiger in front of him. He thought it was wild and wanted to eat him, so he quickly said, "Tiger Lord, I just saved you. You can't repay me with kindness." Upon hearing this, Bai Hu rolled his eyes without any disguise, crouched down, and turned his head to signal. Bai Yi was taken aback and scratched his head. "Tiger Lord, do you want me to sit on it?" Roar. "Okay, that's what you're saying. Don't bite me later." Riding a tiger, this is the first time Flower Girl has boarded a sedan chair. Bai Yi swallowed his saliva and a hint of excitement flashed in his eyes, then flipped over and rode on. White Tiger roared low again, without hesitation, and ran straight in one direction, PS, collecting and requesting tickets. 10 turned out to be Tiger Mom, deceiving success. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This translator is experiencing an error, please try another translator.